Yes, sir, we are live.
Okay, thank you. Hello, good morning, everyone. Okay, it's everyone here. Hello, Madhur. Hello. Hello, Rashmi. How are you? Good afternoon, Madhur. Good afternoon. Am I audible to everyone? Hello, Ashish. Am I audible to everyone? Hello, Praveen. Yeah. Am I audible to everyone? Yeah, Pooja, please ask. Hello, Jyoti. Hello, Rohit. Yeah. So, am I audible properly? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, then. Let's start today's topic. And today we have a lot of topics to cover. And the topics that we are going to learn today are quite complicated. Not a lot, but if you don't understand them at first, they will become a little complicated. But you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that at all. We are going to learn them in the simplest way possible. So the topics that we are going to learn today are more of the newest topics available in ES6. Topics like promises, topics like async, await. You might have like heard of them. They sound something very like that can be complicated, but let's ease them out for you people. Fine. So as we promised earlier, we are going to in the first half today, we are going to learn about the timing functions. So we have two functions in like a mind, set timeout and set interval. I'm going to show you both of them and how to use them. And after that, we'll move to Ajax. I'm going to explain you how Ajax works in JavaScript. And then I'm moving on to then promises and then async await. So these are the things that we're going to cover today. So today's lecture requires a lot of focus. It's easy, but you have to understand it. You have to like focused on it. You have to be focused, and then you have to understand it. Because if you like even miss out a little thing, it will be complicated for you then. So from search, okay, what is your question, Kumal? What is your question? The search that we had in the last assignment. The search that we had in the last assignment, is that your doubt? Okay. Okay, once we complete few things in today's lecture, then I'm gonna show you that assignment again and I'm gonna explain that search again. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Once we complete today's like a few things of today's lecture, we are surely gonna do that. Not a problem. Is it fine? We'll do it in the midway somewhere. Okay, cool. Is my screen visible? Can you see the code? Can you see the code? My screen visible to all. Okay, that's great. That's great. That's great. Let's start then. Let's start. So in JavaScript, basically, we have two inbuilt timing functions. Now, basically, they're timer functions. That basically means the timer functions are the functions which have ability to perform some code based on a time interval. So timer function is basically a function. If I write it like this, timers, you can say timers are basically a function which have ability to perform a task based on a time interval. You can say something like this. So timers are basically a function which have ability to perform a task based on some time interval. For example, if you create a normal function, right? If you create a normal function and you create it, you call them, and they are called like once. If you put it in a loop, then if your loop is going from 1 to 10, they will be called 10 times, right? But what happens if you want to perform a task, let's say 10 times or 20 times or infinite times, but not in a flow, but based on some timing. For example, you have created a function that you have to call again and again after every 2 seconds. Or for example, you have created a function that you have to call, or you have some task that you want to perform continuously after 2 seconds, right? So based on some time interval. So you have some time, like for example, let's say a clock. So let's say if I create a clock in JavaScript, so I want to update my clock timings after every second so that you see a new time every time, right? You see a new second every time. So it's just like that. Timer functions are used wherever you want to perform a task based on some time interval. It can be 1 second, it can be 2 seconds, it can be 3 seconds, not a problem at all. That's all. That's all how they work. So there are two inbuilt timers available in JavaScript named set interval and set timeout. These two functions basically help you to perform a task based on time. So you can perform the task based on some time interval, like every 2 seconds you have to perform the task, every 3 seconds, every 4 seconds, every 5 seconds, just like that. Is that clear? Do you understand the definition? Do you understand the definition? Right? Is everyone clear with the definition of timer functions? Okay, great. Fine. So I'm going to explain you two functions, set interval and set timeout. Let's check them one by one and let's try to understand them first. So we need a JavaScript page here. So let's create one. So index.js, right? Let's create some basic HTML here. So HTML. Let's link the JavaScript script. Okay. And let's link it with Sassy index.js. As simple as that. Cool. Let's move ahead then. What did you type? I just typed HTML, that's all. My VS Code gave me a hint, right? Just like this. I just wrote HTML and it gave me a hint like HTML, HTML5 or HTML, XML. I just selected HTML5 and that's all. Simple. Or if you don't get any options, just press tab and see if you're getting them. Sometimes if your VS Code is slow or something like that, you'll not get that autocomplete options, the IntelliSense, right? Fine. So let's do it. Let's run this page first. So I'll again do the same thing. I'll just copy the path. I have a browser going on here, running. Paste. And to show you the output first, I'll open the console. And that's perfect. Cool. Fine. Let's do it then. So let's first see set interval. So set interval is basically an inbuilt function which helps you to perform a task infinite times continuously until and unless you stop it. So set interval by default runs infinite times based on a time interval until and unless you stop it, right? By some explicit call. So set interval is a function which performs a task infinite times based on some time interval until and unless you force it to stop. Simple definition. Let's see how it works, right? So let's create a function. So why not use live server extension? Actually, I don't use it because it fails sometimes. Like there are cases that it might fail sometime. That's why I don't use it. I don't like to use it, Pramod. It's just that you can use it, not a problem at all. I'm just not a big fan of that, but it's totally okay to use it. I just like to refresh my page every time so that I'm always confirmed that it is getting refreshed. I'm not in doubt. No sound, Velen, can't you hear me? Am I not audible to you? Fine. So let's create a function first. Let's create a function, right? So function do something, and let's say it just prints a value. So console.log hello, a basic string. So this function just now just prints hello. You'll see, Karthik, don't worry, you'll see. In loop, you always have to initialize something and you always have to pass some int. You can make your loops infinite if you don't satisfy the condition of exiting the loop. That's all. So if you say you can make an infinite loop and run something, and you can also call a set interval to run a task infinite times. But in case of loop, the task is like done continuously very fast. There's no wait. There's no wait in between the task. So let's say if you're performing a task 100 times, there's no wait in between them. It's just complete 100 times very fast. So you cannot, even in loop, you cannot specify the waiting time. But in set interval, by using set interval, you're running your task infinite times, plus you can specify a waiting time in between the task. That's all. That is the difference, Karthik. Right? Fine. So this is my function that is performing some task. That's okay. Let's use the set interval function. You'll understand, Maria. Don't worry. So it's a function which performs which can call or which can call a function or which performs a task based on some time interval. That's all. Right? Let's do it. Set interval. Now it has two parameters. The first one is which function you want to call, which function you have to call, right? So it's simple. You just go on and write do something. So the function that you want to call. So do something. The second parameter is basically the timeout. How much time you want to wait in between the task. So that's all. Let's say I just write in it is the parameter, the argument should be in milliseconds. So I write 2000. That basically means 2000 milliseconds. That sums up to 2 seconds. So I have given a 2-second waiting time in between the function call. So now this function, like it's gonna be called infinite times continuously, and the wait will be like between the tasks will be of 2 seconds. Let's see the output once. Let's see. Hello, right? I think I might have done some problem there. Okay. Let me check. Is this the problem? Yep. So that was the problem. That's all. I'm just passing that function as a string parameter because it accepts a string parameter in the set interval. And you can see it now. Every 2 seconds, I'm printing hello again and again. You can see it simply. Right? So it came in it as let's go on and let's make it 1 second. See, now it is getting called every 1 second. So if you want, you can actually maintain a counter here. So we can just go on up here and let's get a variable let counter equals 1, right? And at first, let's print our counter variable, right? And after that, let's make counter plus plus. That is, counter will get into, yes, exactly, Maria. It's something like that. Yeah, exactly like threading. By using threading, you can create timers in Java, right? Save it, but it's like more abstract and simpler to understand. It just looks very short, right? Let's do it. Let's see it now. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that clear? Is that clear, everyone? Is the like, do you understand the fundamental of set interval? Now you understand it, right? We can use it anywhere, but do you understand the fundamental, how it is working? Everyone clear with this? Okay, that's great. Now let's see if you want to stop it. How will you stop it? Let's say if you want to, like, sometimes, like, it will go infinite. Let's say it is still going 36, 37, 38. It is still going. Let's say I want to stop at some point of time. So what you have to do, it's very simple to stop it. It's very simple to stop a set interval. So wherever you're calling the set interval function, you have to store it in some variable, right? You have to store it in some variable to reference it in the future. So let's just store it in a variable. So let's say I'll just write let timer equals this. So I have stored my set interval. So I'm calling the function, and at the same time, I'm storing it in a timer. So this is still working. This is still working. See, this is still working fine. Not a problem at all. This is still working. But I have just stored this complete timer in a timer variable so that I can use this variable in future. So that if I want to, like, if I, yes, AK, it's exactly 1000 milliseconds means 1 second. Normal mathematical calculation. So now I can use this timer variable to stop my set interval, because this timer variable is actually having the complete set interval function inside itself. Let's do it. So let's say I want to stop my set interval function when my counter reaches 10. So simple. So I'll just write, after printing 10, if counter becomes equal to 10, right? There's a counter function for set interval, that is clear interval. That's all. Clear interval, and the variable you have your, like, set interval stored in. That's all. I hope you're understanding it, right? Simple. I'll also explain. Yeah, I'll explain. Don't worry, Ayushi. Like, Ayushi, we have performed closure in almost everything, like in our for each and everything. But I'm gonna explain you. Don't worry. To write how to, like, write closure functions in set interval. Don't worry about it. See it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Simple. It has stopped. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear, everyone? Yes, clear. Window. Everything that you're writing without anything, it's basically of window. So set interval is also a function of window. Clear interval is also a function of window. So simple, Vishal. Are we clear with this? Okay, great. Okay, great. Now there's one more way of writing all this thing. So like, if I want to perform like the same thing in without creating a function, so I can write a closure function, just like, so basically, instead of writing, like, saying a closure function, there's something called as a callback function. For example, you remember that time when we created an array, right? Like, we had an array, right? Let's just, I'm just going to explain you a callback function. Very simple. So we created an array, right? So where, not say where, if you remember that thing, I'm just going to explain you another way of writing set interval. So let's say you have data, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember when we wanted to print it, yes, if you like give time like that properly for that particular interval, but there are, like, different ways to perform it, Karthik. Like, you should not use set interval for such a big task to, like, schedule a scheduler for you. So you can use something else for that, Karthik. Basically, we do it on the server side, not in JavaScript. But if we want, we can do it. Not a problem at all. Right? So remember that thing? When we wanted to loop our data, we did this, right? Data.forEach. And then we passed a function inside for each, right? We passed a function inside for each. So this thing right here, this particular thing right here is basically known as a closure function or a callback function. Remember this thing? We did it, right? We did it a lot of times. So basically, every time a for each is called, for each element, this function is getting called. So these kind of functions, whenever a function is passed as an argument for something, it's basically a callback function. That function is going to be called for that particular task. We did it, right? Remember this thing? We did it, right? We did it a lot of times. Everyone remember this thing? Just a spinning. Do you remember this thing, everyone? So what was happening there for each element? So basically, if you see for each is also a function. For each looks like a function, right? For each looks like a function, which has an argument, which is also a function, right? So if for each is a function and we are passing function as an argument, that's all. That's all. So basically, this function is a callback function because every time the for each is going to be called, this function is also going to be called. So this is basically a callback function, which is getting called every time for each is happening. That's all. This is also known as an anonymous function because this function doesn't have any name, and it is also known as a closure function. That's all. Yeah, it has significance. Today you'll see, Achal, don't worry. I'm going to show you the significance. So this is how you pass a callback function, right? Same thing with set interval. If you see here, if you see it here, you're passing a function, right? You're just passing a function. This is same thing. You're passing a function. But if you want, you can directly write your function here as a callback function. Something like this. And put the whole code. Yes. Something like this. So again, the first parameter is basically a function. I've written it inside, like directly in the set interval. I have not created a function and then calling it here. I've just created the function here only. Looks same, looks simple, right? It will still be working, not a problem at all. Is this understood? Everyone, is this understood? So either you can create a function and pass it in set interval, or you can directly create a function here. And whenever you pass a function as an argument to some other function, that function is basically a callback function. And it is known as a callback function because it is going to be called whenever the main function is performed. So simple. And someone asked me like the significance, right? Actually, it's simple. Like you want to call a function based on some task. That's all. That's a callback function. You have to call it if that task is performed. That's callback. That's all. So you have some task that you have written and you want to call that task if that particular function is performed. So you pass that task to that function. That's all. That's so simple. You'll understand it. Don't worry. Is this clear, everyone? Is this understood? Okay. Can we move ahead? Madhur, like there are a lot of examples. Like if you go on and see stopwatches online, stopwatches anywhere, those are timer functions. Yeah, it just looks same as normal function I see. I'm going to repeat, don't worry. Yes, traffic signal, you can say, then online stopwatches, online watches. Have you seen that sliders in websites, right? Seen those sliders? First image, then slides to second, it slides to third, it slides to fourth, and then again come back to first. You have used timer there, right? After every 1 second, your image is moving. So there are a lot of places where you can use it. There are a lot of places. Okay. So a callback is basically a function that is called back. So if I have to let's make it simple first. So this is a function. This is a function. This do something is a function which is going to be called whenever this set interval is called. So this set interval is calling itself again and again after every 1 second. And if this set interval is called, this do something is associated with that set interval. So this is going to be called. So a callback function is a function associated with some main function, some other function. And if that function is called, the callback function is also called. That's all. So if the main function is called, the second function associated with it will also be called. And that is a callback function. That is going to be called back. Simple. I have to call that function back. That's all. Is that clear? There's no significance in this name. It's just I have to call that function again. Please call that function. Please call back that function. So I'm the main function and I have some function, like there's some do something associated with me. So every time I'm gonna be called, that function will also be also gonna be called. That's all. That's why it is a callback function. If you're calling me, I'll call that function. I'll call every time whenever I'm performed. That's all. That is a callback function. Is that clear? And you normally pass the callback function as an argument to the main function. That means wherever the main function is defined, wherever someone has wrote it, it has a parameter that accepts a function. That's why you're passing a function as an argument. Is this clear, everyone? Are we clear with this? Are we clear with set interval? Okay, that's great. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's just comment this out and let's see the second one also. And then we'll see like a very basic example of it. Actually, I wanted to create a slider for you people, a very proper slider, but actually I want to cover a lot of topics. So tomorrow, in tomorrow's session, I'm going to create a project for you people where I'm going to use this set interval to create a slider, a proper slider in a website. So don't worry about it. I'm going to show you the live demo of using the set interval in your project tomorrow, because we're going to create a project tomorrow. But please focus today. We have to complete a lot of things if we have to build a project tomorrow, if we want to build a project tomorrow. Yes, Vishal, tomorrow is last. Last for JavaScript, yes. Fine. Let's see the next one. That is set timeout. So basically, set timeout is basically a partial thing that comes in set interval. So what set timeout says, Ayushi, I explained it in the start. Please, I'll explain it again, Ayushi, don't worry. Let's just see the function first. Fine. So let's see. So set timeout is a function which is like a little different than set interval. So set intervals calls itself continuously again and again for infinite times. Set timeout only calls itself once based on a time interval. That's all. So basically, you give set timeout some task and a timing. So let's say if you give a task of printing something and give a time of 5 seconds. So it will wait for 5 seconds and then print that thing. That's all. So set timeout again needs a task, needs a timing, but it calls itself only once. Set timeout is called only once based on that time. Set interval is called again and again based on the time. Set timeout is called only once based on that time. Is the difference clear? Set interval is called infinite times and set timeout is only called once. Is that clear, everyone? Let's see the actual example. And in this case, I'm not going to create a function and call it. I'm directly going to pass a function here. It's very simple to understand. That's all. Function, right? Function. I think there's some silly mistake here. Function. I'm directly passing a callback function. So the first function is the first argument is a function. I write a little definition of it, comma the timing. So let's say I give it 5 seconds. Then come here, and then now you can just hit an enter, and then let's say console.log. Simple. Let's just save it and see if it is working fine. Refresh. So wait for 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and you can see your hello here. Maybe Karthik, yes. Maybe. And see that? It's just calling once. There's no hello again. That's all. One hello, that's all. Simple. So you can perform any task in set timeout, right? That you only have to perform once based on time. So any task that you want to perform based on time, but only once, you're going to use set timeout. If I have to give any example for it, you might have seen those, right? You might have seen those websites where you log in, and after login, like after 5 seconds, you get an ad. That ad only comes once, right? That ad doesn't come again and again. That ad only comes once, but it waits for 5 seconds. So once you go, like let's say you go to Flipkart, right? You go to Flipkart, you're exploring it, and after 5 or 10 seconds, there's an ad pop up, or there's a login form pop up. Please register with us, right? And it is done only once. So that ad, the logic for that ad showing is basically written inside a set timeout. Is that clear? And it depends whatever you think you can do, not a problem at all. But is it clear? Yes. If the once it starts once the function is loaded. Gunashekar, it starts once the function is loaded. So if you like, Gunashekar, you can do one thing. You can put this set timeout in a window.load function. So it will at least wait until and unless the complete window is loaded. So to solve that problem, if you have some internet issue and if there is some timing issue, you can write a window.load function and you can put this set timeout in that, so that once the complete window is loaded, then only set timeout starts working, not before that. Is that clear, everyone? Are we clear with set timeout? And same thing, just like this clear interval that we had to stop a set interval, we also have a clear timeout. So I can just write let t equals this function, and I can just go down here and write clear. Please remember this function because this is going to be very helpful today when we are going to mimic. What is the difference between the two, right? You saw it, right? So you saw it. Set intervals calls itself continuously. It calls again and again, infinite times. Set timeout only gets called once. That's the difference. That's the only difference. So do you understand, Sai? Do you understand it? Set interval calls itself again and again. Set timeout only calls it once. That's all. Okay, cool. So you have clear timeout and then you can pass t. Basically, you don't have to stop set timeout normally, but if you want, you can do it. Now you see, this set timeout, it will be like getting called after 5 seconds, right? But so set timeout will wait for 5 seconds till it get executed. But this clear timeout, it's written normally. It's just if you want to, right? There might be case, for example, let's just try to understand. Let's say you have some error message, right? You have some error message to show to the user. You have some error message to show to. Let's not say this. Let's take a normal example, right? So what should I give it example? Okay, let's say the same error example. So let's say you have some error message to show to the user if he has not clicked a particular button, right? So if you log into a website and let's say you're waiting for 5 seconds to click a particular button, right? So you wait for 5 seconds. If that button is not clicked, you'll call the set timeout. You'll call the set timeout. So set timeout is started and it is waiting for 5 seconds. But in between that 5 seconds, if you click that button, so you want set timeout to stop working, right? In that case, so if you click that button, you have to clear the timeout. So please don't work. I have clicked the button. Do you understand? Do you understand, Ashish? There is a particular ad that will come. So you log into a website. Now set timeout has started its timer waiting for 10 seconds. But it is based on if you click the button, if you click some particular button, it will not show you the ad. I'm going to explain you. Let's say I have a button, right? I have a button. I am good. It can be anything, right? I'm just giving an example. Don't worry, Ashish. Just see it. Let's say I'm calling a function on click stop ad, right? Stop ad. A simple function. And inside stop ad, I'm clearing that. I'm stopping the timeout. I'm stopping the set timeout function, right? So basically, this set timeout function is waiting for 10 seconds, and this hello is my ad. Let's just assume this hello is my ad, right? This hello is my ad. Okay. Right? So this hello is my ad, right? This hello is my ad that is going to be appeared in the 10 seconds once the website is loaded, right? So I'm waiting. Now what happens if I'm exploring your website, and so this is a button that is going to stop some ad, right? And I'm not clicking it. So I'm doing, and after 10 seconds, the ad has been appeared, right? The ad has appeared after 10 seconds. Simple. The ad has appeared after 10 seconds. But it was with me that if I have clicked this button, I'm never going to see that ad then. That's all. You can see now there will be no ad here. So there is some task that is scheduled to be performed at some point of time, but you have a button that is basically checking if I'm clicked, I'll stop that particular thing. That's all. That's all you can do. So there might be some cases where you can do it. Is this clear, Ashish? Is this clear now? Is everyone clear with this now? Like just that hello was my ad, it can be a normal banner ad also. It can be anything. So basically, if you want to stop a particular timeout, if you want to stop a particular ad or a message, you can just do it, not a problem. Fine. So very simple, very basic. Right? Okay. Let's just do one thing. I'm gonna show you to create something. Right. So see, there's a function with a date object that gives me the current time, right? That gives me a current time. Just see. Let's use it. Let's use it. Let's use it. Means yeah, I'm gonna create something actually. I'm creating something for you people. Let's create a clock. Let's create a normal digital clock with the use of set interval. Just a very basic example. Tomorrow I'm going to show you how to use a set interval to create a slider. Today I'm just showing you how to create a clock using your set interval function, right? Very simple. Let's do it. I just checked it. I'm going to show you everything. Don't worry. So there is an inbuilt date object available. Let's say here is a div with ID clock. With ID clock. And now here we go. What we do here is we create a date object. We create a date object. So let current date equals new date. And let current time equals current time. There's an inbuilt function for the date object. So you know, right? This current date is basically a date object. You understand this? This current date is basically a date object. So current date dot, what was the function? To locale time string. So this function basically gives me the current time. That's all. This so date object dot to locale time string basically gives you the local time, gives you the current local time. Don't worry, Rahul. I'm gonna. I'll be announcing that tomorrow, Rahul. I'll be announcing that tomorrow. Don't worry. Just focus here, please. Just please focus. So I have a date object that is current date, and I'm using that date object to call a function to locale time string that basically gives me the local time, and I'm storing it in the current time. And for the first time, for the start, I'm going to use this. I'm going to show my time inside this div, this particular div. So what I'll do is document dot get element by ID. Right? I'm just showing you a very basic example of using set interval. So document dot get element by ID clock dot inner HTML equals current time. Simple. See, you can see the current time. If you refresh the page, see, you can see the time getting updated, right? I'm going to zoom it a bit. Don't worry. See it now. So every time I'm refreshing, I'm getting the current time. Right? You see it? You understand it, right? You people understand this now? Are we cleared with this? Are we cleared with this very simple thing? So date object and then getting a locale time string and storing it in a current time variable. Now let's do one thing. Let's create a set interval function, and this time The interval should be of 1 second. And let's pass a callback function in this. And let's do one thing. Just copy this amount of code because this is the thing we're going to update every time, right? So every time I'm getting the current time. After getting the current time, I'm printing. So this is for the first time, so that it is not looking blank. So this is for the first time. So for the first time, data object, getting time from the data object and printing that time on the div. And this set interval function is going to be called after every 1 second, and again it will get the current time. So it is getting called again and again, so it will always get current time and printed on the HTML. Is this clear? Just like the refresh. It is working just like the refresh. It is calling that code again and again after every 1 second. Are we clear with this? So after every 1 second, it will get the current time from the data object and print it on the div. Are we clear with this code? Are we clear with this code, everyone? Please tell me. Is this code understandable? Right? Let us go. Okay, let us go and refresh. Now see. Okay, there is some problem, I feel. I have something wrong. Oh, what is the problem? That's fine, right? If I'm setting 2 times, that's not a problem at all. It will just overwrite it. That's totally fine. It should work. I might have done some very bad mistake. That's not a problem to set it twice. Not at all. Might have done some mistake at some place. Let's call it on load. This function is going to be called on load of the window. Space after function. Oh, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. No, my set interval is not working actually. Is there a spelling mistake in set interval? Why would that be a problem? Is this space a problem? This is just a formatting, right? This should not be a problem. It is given by VS Code actually. So if it is a closure function, it should not be in quotes. Don't worry about it. What is the problem here? Let's see if this set interval is getting called at least. So console.log. Let's see if this is getting called at least. Okay, set interval is working, but it is not updating that inner HTML of that thing. Okay, I think I have to fetch date every. Okay, I got the yes, Kumar. Yes, you're right. You're right. You're right. You have to fetch date every time you're doing it. Actually, what you need is you have to write this whole code inside this. Actually, once you fetch a date, the time is actually fixed. I feel something like that. Yep, now it is working. See. See it now. So this is for the first time. If I don't write this, for the first 1 second, I think that will be blank then. See this. If I don't write this, see, for the first 1 second, it is blank. See that? I'm going to explain you. What is happening is, once we fetch the date, once we create a date object, the time comes with that date object. Remember this thing. Once we create a date object, that current time comes with the date object. So even if you call that toLocale time string function again, it will get the same time because you're getting it from that date. So once we call a date, once we create a date object, so the current time comes with that date object. So even after 10 seconds, the current time for that date object will be same when it was created. So I have to create the date object again and again so that I get the current time, the new current time again and again. Is that clear? Are we clear with this? Yes, Maria. Actually, I did that mistake. I didn't wrote the current date. I thought the current date, I thought of creating current date only once and then getting the time, like getting the change time again and again from that date. But it's not the case. Once you create a date object, the time for that particular date object is fixed. So you're not getting the new time again, right? So that's why you have to create the date object again and again. And I have wrote the same code before the set interval. You saw it, right? For the first 1 second, it should not be empty. Now, if you see, for the first 1 second, it is not empty. So for the first 1 second, it will perform it. And for the next, after 1 second, it will start performing this. And that's all. Yes, Vishal, this is window or set interval. That's totally fine. If we have cleared this, right? You don't have to write window. Are we clear with this? A very basic clock, right? Are we clear with this, everyone? Why there is a delay? Delay of what, right? Delay because this is getting called after 1 second, right? So set interval will call itself for after every 1 second. So for the first time, like for the set interval to be called, it waits for 1 second first. Yes, I'll update it. Don't worry, I'll update it. Adnan, are you clear with this? Set interval first waits for 1 second and then calls itself, and then again waits for 1 second and call itself. So first it waits for 1 second. So for the first 1 second, if I don't have this code, so for the first 1 second, set interval is waiting. Set interval is waiting for the first second. That's why I don't see anything in the div. So that's why for the first time, just for the first time, this code will happen, and after 1 second, this will start doing it. So that I don't see any like blank thing right there. Okay, and someone was asking how to comment for selection, how to comment multiple lines. Just select everything and press Control/. That's comment. And again to uncomment, select everything and Control/ again to uncomment. That's so simple. Are we cleared, Adnan? Are you cleared now? Okay, so are these two functions cleared now? Are we cleared with set interval and set timeout? So we can create like a lot of things with this. And tomorrow I'm going to show you how to create a slider with set interval. Because tomorrow I'm going to create a very basic website, a complete website, just to show you how to create a website and using JavaScript in that. So are we clear with this? Are we cleared? Everyone, are we cleared? The next thing I'm going to show you Ajax, how Ajax works. Can we give 0? Yes, you can give 0. But then it's totally like loop, right? There's no wait. Yes, I'll be doing a doubt session. Don't worry. I'm just going to explain something. I'm going to explain Ajax. Then we have a doubt session, and then we'll do it. Don't worry about it. We'll do a doubt session. Don't worry. Let's get the explanation of Ajax cleared first. Now, I'm going to explain something new to you people. Please try to listen and understand it. Now, by default, listen to it. By default, JavaScript is a single-threaded language, right? So if you have learned threading, or if you know the concept of threading in computers, can we show an update date also? Yes, you can show date, right? You can show. So there's a lot of functions in this. If you just go on here, there's a lot of functions available. See, get date, get day, get full year. So there is a lot of functions available. You can use any of this. Not a problem at all. Right? So you can just experiment. You can just go on and experiment. What are the things available? Print it. Even if it gets an error, not a problem. Get errors and understand it. If you don't get errors, that is a problem. Fine. Okay. So by default, JavaScript is a single-threaded language that everything in JavaScript works on a single thread, works on a single particular thread, right? And JavaScript works in a synchronous way by default. It works in a synchronous way, right? So when I say synchronous way, it basically means everything is getting executed one by one. So let's create a new file actually. I'll just comment this out. So I'm going to create a new file. I'll name it syncjs.html. syncjs.js, right? So that basically means in JavaScript, everything like JavaScript by default is basically synchronous, right? So what does synchronous means? Everything is executed one by one. So if you have written like multiple lines of code in JavaScript, everything will be executed line by line, one by one, and then you'll get the output. That's so simple. That's what synchronous code means. That's how the event loop in JavaScript works. Everything just goes one by one, right? But let's say you have some task, right? You have some task. You have a task that gets some data from network. Just understand it like this. You have a task that that gets data from some network. That gets data from some network. For example, something like this. I'm going to show you it. So let's say there is task one to print something. Please listen to it first. If you understand this concept, Ajax, asynchronous task, everything will be clear. So let's say the first task is to print something, right? To print something, or let's say to print something and load table. This is first task. And then the second task is basically to get some data from network. So you're getting some data from network. That's all. That's totally fine. And the third task is to load a form. So these are three tasks, right? So these are the three tasks that you have. These are the three tasks that you have, right? Now, the second task right here is basically working with some third-party thing that is getting data from somewhere else, right? So the second task might take some time to work, take some time to load. The second task is basically getting some data from network, so it might take some time to load. So let's say, for example, the first task takes around 1 second, or normal 1 second. The second task, let's say, takes around 7 seconds to complete. Just think it like this. The second task takes around hotel and just we can't take an example, but that's the explanation of Ajax. Vijay Kanan, that's the explanation of Ajax. I'm just explaining you the async please see it like this. And then say the third task, I'm explaining it in JavaScript basically. I don't want to like complicate it for now. And then let's say the third task again takes 1 second. Now what will happen? The first task will be performed in 1 second. Now the second, by default, JavaScript is synchronous. So what will happen? The first task will be performed, then it will move on to second task. Now what will happen is the second task is taking 7 seconds. And by the definition of synchronous, everything is performing one by one. So until and unless this task is finished, this task have to wait. This is what synchronous means. Every task is completed by one. So if one task is stuck somewhere, the next task or all the tasks have to wait for that task to get completed. So this will get completed, then this will be working. This will take all the 7 seconds, and for that particular time, every task below it will have to wait. This is what happens in synchronous. Are we clear with this? Everything is getting performed one by one. Are we clear with this? This is how normally JavaScript works. Are we clear with this, everyone? Right? Normal synchronous understood? That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, so this thing right here is basically a problem. This thing right here is basically a problem. And why this is a problem? So let's say you only have one task that is taking 7 seconds, and every other task is taking just like mere 0.1 milliseconds, right? So let's say you have one task that is taking 10 seconds, and every other task is basically taking 0.1 second. And so the first task will be executed, then the next task will start. Yes, Pradyumna, we are like going to that concept. Don't worry about it. Don't use that overcomplicated words. Otherwise, everyone will get confused. Don't worry about it, right? So just see it now. So let's say I have this task that is taking 7 seconds, and every other task below it is just taking 0.1 millisecond, right? So what I want all the tasks below it not to wait. I want this task to get out of the main thread and get executed somewhere else. So what I want the second task to do is, please don't get executed in the synchronous in the main thread. Let everyone use that thread. You're taking a lot of time. Please go on some other thread. Once you're completed, come back again. Don't stop. Don't let other things wait, right? So let's say you have two threads now. Let's say you have two threads now. So every task that is taking normal time, that is working normally, put it on the main thread. And any task that is taking a lot of time, let's say 7 seconds, 10 seconds, yes, to execute parallelly, 5 seconds, or any task that is taking a lot of time, put it on the background thread, the second thread. Put it on the background thread. So the second task will be executed there. And what will happen is the tasks that are executed here, they do not have to wait. And once this task is complete, again, show your output and come on the first step. That's normal. So in this case, what will happen? All my tasks do not have to wait for a task to complete. They will get executed. And any task that is taking a lot of time, you can put it on the next thread. Are we clear with this? Are we clear with this? Are we clear with this? Yes, right? So you have, let's say, thread 1, and then let's say you have thread 2, right? The background thread. This is the background thread. This is the background thread. So on thread 1, all your synchronous tasks, and whatever is taking time, just put it on the thread 2. Exactly. I'm going to give an example. Don't worry about it. Let's say if you want an example, the same thing, right? The same thing that you're getting data from some network, right? So let's say you have a complete page load to happen, and let's say that you want some data coming from the network, right? Want some data coming from the network. So if if that task is your second task and everything else is down it, everything else have to wait. I'm going to show you the example by coding, but do you understand the definition? You can do it, Maria. You can do it. By default, everything gets executed on the single thread, but you can like create a background thread. You don't create it actually. You tell that task that you are an async task. I'm going to show you. Don't worry about it. By default, I just said by default, everything works on the first thread because by default, JavaScript is a single threaded language. Is that clear? Now, listen to this thing. Why I'm saying it as async. Listen to this thing now. So everything is going on synchronously, but the task that it's taking a lot of time, you're passing it into a background thread. And it is working there. And once it is completed, it will just come back. It will just come back on the main thread. Once it is completed, it will just come back on the main thread. So every task that is working in the background thread are basically known as the async tasks. They are the async tasks. Are we clear with this? They are the asynchronous tasks. Are we clear with this? Any task that is working in the background is basically an asynchronous task. So now you understand the difference between synchronous task and asynchronous task. Are we clear with this? And it is asynchronous. It is basically asynchronous because it is not letting you wait. It is working on some background thread, and once it is completed, it will just come back. That's all. Once it is completed, it will just come back in between the synchronous task. That's all. That's all. That is async task. Or you can say async JS. That's all. Are we cleared with this? Sync is basically normal, right? Sync is normal. Sync is normal. So if let's say I write some HTML. Now I'm going to give you an example. But I hope you understood the definition, right? I hope you understand the definition, right? I'm just going to show you some examples, right? Let's say src equals async.js. So let's say I have something like this: console.log hello, console.log by, console.log new. See, these are basically synchronous tasks. They will be executed one by one. If you just go on and see it now, see here. Let's run this file actually. Copy path. It's it here. Okay. Async.js, right? There is some mistake in linking. Okay, async.js.js. Async.js. That's right. Now see. Now see it right here. What's happening here? So it is in the same order, right? Hello, by, and new. So everything got executed one by one. That is normal synchronous task. So it is working in a synchronous way. Are we clear with this? Are we clear with this? Normal, right? This is the normal way of execution in JavaScript. Very normal way of execution in JavaScript. Are we clear with this, everyone? Now, let's do one thing. Let's put a set timeout in between it, right? And let's say it is performing something like this is a task. It's going to take, let's say, 3 seconds to complete. Now let's see how this is working, how this thing is working. Let's see. See it now? Did you see something? Did you see some difference? So I have a console.log, right? A hello. Then I have a set timeout function which is printing by, that is taking 3 seconds, that I have like wrote manually, but it is taking 3 seconds. And then I have new. Now if you just go on, you see set timeout didn't stop you. Set timeout didn't stop the task. So that basically means, yes, by is executing after 3 seconds. That is how set timeout works. But did you notice that set timeout didn't stop your new to get executed? Yes, because set timeout by default is working on background. Set timeout is basically asynchronous. It is working in the background. Are we clear with this? It is made like that. Set timeout always works in background so that any other task below set timeout doesn't have to wait. Are we clear with this? If it was not working in background, then that thing will be a problem. Are we clear? Let's do one thing. Let's do one other thing. Let's read a for loop here, right? Let's read a for loop for I equals 0, right? And I is less than, let's say, 1,000,000 times or whatever it is. Now let's see it. Save it. See it now. This is not async. See it now. Please check. Now my third task is waiting for my loop to get completed. Now my third task is basically waiting for my loop to get completed. So this is normal. This is how synchronous works. The first was executed, the second is still working. Now it is taking a lot of time, but the third is still waiting because this is not async. The second task is not in a asynchronous way. It is synchronous. That's why I have to wait. Can you see it? I'm waiting. I probably wrote more zeros. I should have written less. Sorry for that. But I just wanted to show you the example. Are we clear with this? So if this loop was like to go in a background thread, what will happen? Hello, hello, then new, and then once the loop is completed, everything will become again. Yes, we are going to see Velen. We are going to see that. Yes, we'll do that. We'll do that. That is the whole concept of today. We are going to understand promises and callbacks. Ashish, don't worry. I'm just going one step at a time. First, I'm showing you the problems. Then we'll see the solutions. Don't worry about it. This is basically the explanation. First, I'll show you all the problems that we have with sync and async. And then I'm going to show you how to solve it. Don't worry about it. But do you understand the difference between sync and async? Set timeout was basically an async function. That's why it was like going in the background. Everything worked, and whenever it got completed, it just did it. But this loop is still working. You have to wait, right? You have to wait here. Then it will be async. If this thing, let's just remove some zeros. Actually, it takes a lot of time. I think my browser got hanged, right? Okay, let's do one thing. See, just to show you some example, my browser got hanged. Let me close it first. Give me a second. By mistake, I think there's some problem. Can you make me live again? Hello, Shoaib sir, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are live.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. Just because of that thing, my browser was closed and everything just got. So sorry about it. Okay. Okay. So sorry about it. Let's remove some zeros actually. Let's make it 1000. Right? That is adjustable. That is how much we can see at once. Just copy the file path again. Paste it. Right? See it now? First it's complete itself for 1000 times, and then here we go new. Right? Now, if that loop, I hope everyone can see my screen, right? Everyone can see my screen, right? Can hear me? Can see my screen? Can you people hear me and see my screen? Please tell me. Okay, that's great. Now let's do one thing. Let's copy this thing, right? And let's print this inside a set timeout function. And now let's see what's happening here. Okay, let's see. So I have copied my loop and pasted inside my set timeout function. And now let's see what's happening here. See? Hello, see again. Hello, new, and then this. And the problem was, first it waited for 3 seconds. Let's do one thing. Let's make it 0. So that it is async, but it is not waiting. At least I'm not taking the time to use for the set timeout. Let's see. See now. The by is executed third. So hello and new are executed, and this time, because set timeout is async, first it will let get completed everything else. It will basically not stop my synchronous task. That's all. It will be in background, and once it is completed, it will come back. That's all. Are we clear with this? Did you see the difference between synchronous and asynchronous? In synchronous, if some task is taking time, it will stop all your things below it. But in asynchronous, if any task is taking time, if you make that, you have to make that task asynchronous. Set timeout is by default asynchronous. Set timeout is by default asynchronous. That's why it is working like this. But let's say if you have some task that is taking a lot of time, you can't pass it every time it's set timeout. You have to learn how to make it asynchronous so that it works in background. So today we are also going to see that how to make a task asynchronous so that it works in background. So in future, if any task is taking a lot of time, you can just make it asynchronous. But have we understood the concept of sync and async? So basically, synchronous is a blocking code. So it blocks you if there is a lot of time. And asynchronous is non-blocking code. That's all. Okay. For today, actually, we are going to use a lot of set timeouts to understand the concept. And tomorrow we are going to see the actual use. Okay, so let's have a 3 to 5 minutes doubt session. Please ask all your doubts. Please, everyone, can we start? Before we move ahead, can we start our doubt session? Do you people have any doubts, or should we continue? Please tell me. Okay, I got one. Go ahead. Please give me. Okay, that's it. Fine. Now let's do something. Let's try to perform some task, and let's actually before that, let's try to understand Ajax. Actually, right? Let's try to understand Ajax. Fine. So like someone wanted to know Ajax, so I'll just teach Ajax right now. So Ajax, the full form of Ajax is basically asynchronous JavaScript and XML, right? The full form of Ajax is basically asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So Ajax is basically a task. Ajax is basically used to send some request to a server and get some data from it. Yes, we have fetch, right? We have fetch. I'm going to show you everything. Don't worry. But let's just try to learn Ajax first, because fetch again uses the same tech. Santosh. So we are also going to learn fetch, but for that we have to first understand promises, because it returns promise. So let's just go one by one. Let's start from the bottom. So first you understand Ajax. Ajax is basically a concept, you can say, or a tech in JavaScript that basically helps you to send requests to a server and get data from it. Are we clear with this? And you can understand in the full form that it is asynchronous. That Ajax thing is asynchronous, because the full form is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. That basically means Ajax by default works in background. Are we clear with this? Ajax by default works in background. It will never stop your task. But Ajax functionality basically helps you to send some request to a server and get data from it. So whenever you want to get data from some network, from some place to your application, you can use Ajax. And Ajax by default is asynchronous. So the full form is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Are we clear with this? So first I'm going to teach you Ajax. Then we are going to move ahead with asynchronous JavaScript and everything. It's not, like there's no need of database. You just need some place where you get data from. That's all. No, it gives JSON actually. It depends on how the server is returning the data. It depends on how you're getting the data from the server. Whatever code is written behind the scenes. It can be XML, it can be JSON, not a problem at all. At first, it was XML only. Before the invention of JSON, the data was coming in XML format only. That's why I think the full form is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. But we can use local store, but that will be a local data, right? But today I'm going to show you Ajax. So it is going to take data from some other party, some other third party thing and take it from here. So some other network actually. So Ajax basically helps you to get data from some other network to your application. Are we clear with that? Are we clear with that? I'm just going to show you Ajax very simply, very fast, so that you understand Ajax once, then we can move ahead and understand the concepts of asynchronous JavaScript. Right? And I'm not going to use the vanilla JavaScript thing to like use Ajax. I'm going to use jQuery. It's basically very simplified in jQuery. We can use fetch. I'm going to show you fetch in future, how fetch works. There's a way to write Ajax functionality in vanilla JavaScript by using fetch. But before that, just to explain you, I'm not going to use the vanilla JavaScript way. I'm going to use the jQuery way, just to explain you how Ajax works. So for that, I'm going to use the jQuery library. That is again a very basic JavaScript library. That's all. So I'll convert jQuery library. So I'll just write jQuery CDN. So I'll just get jQuery from the network instead of downloading it. I'll just get jQuery from network. So it is a JavaScript library which has a lot of functions. Yes, Geetika, for that we have to learn how to create web services actually to get data. Because what happens, how the layer works is you have a database. Now let's say you get the data from database with the help of, let's say, some language like Java or PHP. So you create that particular web service in PHP or Java or in Node.js that gets data from database and serves that data. And then from JavaScript or from the front end, you call that particular service to get the data. So if you want to learn it from database, you have to learn the complete thing. Like to create the database, to put data in it, then to choose a particular language like Java or Node.js to get data from database. jQuery basically has a lot of functions. jQuery basically has a lot of functions, right? So it's just a library. So all the functions, yes, you can use Ajax if you're using React. Don't use those keywords. Don't make people confused, please. Right now we're just focusing on jQuery. Yes, you can store, but you have to write some code to fetch data, right? You have to, Geetika, you have to write some code to fetch data from database, right? So for that, you have to use either Node.js or Java or anything, something like that, like some server-side language. So we can't do that complete thing right now. But for that, we have a course. We have a course coming on in LetsUpgrade, that is Merge Stack. So in there, you are going to learn complete thing: MongoDB, Express.js to write web services, and then React to write your front end, and then again complete Node.js to again write that thing. So you have a course coming in LetsUpgrade that will be taught by me. That is Merge Stack development, where you're going to learn everything like MongoDB, Express.js, Node.js, and React. So just for now, we are using JavaScript to like make you people understand what is actually Ajax, right? I'm just teaching you what is Ajax. I'm not teaching you jQuery. Don't worry. I'm not teaching you jQuery. I'm just making you understand Ajax. That's all. You can see it on the Let's Upgrade community, Geetika. You'll see it. You can see it. You can ask them. They are better for this actually. They will explain you properly. Everyone, you can just go on Let's Upgrade community and you can ask them. Or at the end, we'll be having Shoaib sir. We'll also get answers from him. Don't worry about it. Just for now, let's focus on the topic first. Okay, not a problem, not a problem. I'm going to explain you the whole course at the end today with the help of Shoaib sir, and then you can ask all your questions about fees and everything. Don't worry about it. But for now, let's just focus on the topic, please. So this is the external link of jQuery. So jQuery is basically a library in JavaScript which gives you a lot of functions so that you don't have to write a hell lot of vanilla JavaScript. You can ease it out a little bit. So let's link it. So once you link jQuery with your page, you can write some Ajax code, right? You can write some jQuery functions. So there is an inbuilt property in jQuery that is $.ajax. Just please try to understand this, please. Please try to understand this first. Yes, you can see the chat given by ma'am. We will give all the details on the community later. So you can just go on and check it there. Don't worry. So this function is provided by jQuery. This Ajax, you can say the decorator is provided by jQuery. Now, what you do in Ajax basically, just please try to listen here. What you do in Ajax, there are some things like there is something called as URL. So you pass the URL from your from where you want to get the data, from which URL you want to get the data. This is the thing. So there is a fake web service available. You basically get data from web service, right? So a web service, what is a web service? A web service is basically a functionality, an API written in some language that gets the data from database and returns it to you. And it always is associated with some URL. So you call that URL, so basically you're calling that API and it will give you data. That's all. So there's a fake API available that is JSON placeholder.typicode. This is a fake online REST API, fake. I'm going to explain everything of REST API and everything in the course. Don't worry about it because right now we don't have to understand all those things because that are not related to JavaScript at all. I'm just explaining you that's why I'm explaining you all this. But in the upcoming course, we're going to create everything from scratch, creating a web service, creating a database, getting data, everything we're going to learn in that course. But just for now, please try to understand it. So see this. So this is a URL. Please see it here. Please see it here. So this is a URL which gives me this data, right? So this URL, behind this URL, just understand this. Behind this URL, there might be some function written in either Java or Node.js, which is getting data from database and giving it like this. So could you please tell us in the 6th day assignment? Yes, I'll explain that. Don't worry about it. I'll explain that. That is just a symbol that is available in jQuery to use and to call functions. So if you learn jQuery, I'm definitely going to tell you. But right now, I'm just explaining you Ajax. So just try to understand it. We are going to do it in a different way also. But just now, I'm just explaining you Ajax. That's all. So just try to understand. There is a web service that is available, which has this URL and gives this data. So this is the third party thing. So what I have to do by using Ajax, I'm going to call this particular URL and get this data in my application. Let's do it. So here you specify the URL. So in jQuery, you have this shorthand function Ajax that you can use to perform Ajax operations, right? So you just go on, copy the URL, paste it here, right? So now you've told Ajax that this is the URL I want to get data from, right? This is the URL I want to get data from. And after that, you specify the type of the request, right? So the type of the request is get. I'm getting the data. So the type of the request is get. And after that, you have a callback function. So once the request is successful, I'm basically calling a function. Once the request is successful, I'm calling a function. It has data. Now, listen here. So it's simple. In Ajax, this is the URL I'm calling. This is the URL I'm requesting. This is the type of my request. Did I create table with by using dollar? No, no, no. We use JavaScript, right? Shreyans, we use JavaScript. In day 6, we didn't use jQuery, right? You can create Java. You can create tables with JavaScript. In the last assignment, we didn't use any of jQuery, right? In that assignment, we created everything using vanilla JavaScript. We didn't use jQuery. So please, I'm suggesting you don't use jQuery. Whatever I have taught instead of Ajax, please do everything with JavaScript. Don't use jQuery. There was for printing variable. Did I use dollar in the last assignment? Fine, please focus here. Please focus here. So this is the URL that I'm requesting to, right? And this is my type. And if my request gets successful, please call this function. And in this data variable, all my data will come. I'll explain Shreyans at the end. Today I'm going to explain you what is dollar. Yeah, that dollar was templating. That was not jQuery. Everyone, please, you understood that dollar was, that was the syntax. In the previous assignments, we used this. This is the template to specify variables. This dollar has no significance. It is just used to write, yes, exactly, for the concatenation or for writing variables. That was just an expression language, that's all. That dollar was not from jQuery. Please don't get confused. This dollar is something else. Is everyone clear with this? Please, everyone, this dollar was just for expressions, just for writing variables with string. This was the syntax. So if in JavaScript, if you're using templating and if you want to concat string and variable, you use this thing, dollar and then two curly braces to write your variable. This is how it works. But that is not jQuery. Is it clear? That is not jQuery. In jQuery, dollar has some different significance. I'll explain you when we learn jQuery. And that thing, that was just how the syntax is written. There's no significance for that. There is no explanation for that. Are we clear, Shreyans? I hope there's no one else that has this confusion. In jQuery, dollar is something different. And that dollar that we wrote for concatenating, that was just a way of writing. That was just how you write the syntax. So after successful, this function will be called, and inside this data parameter, this all data will be in. This all data will come. And for now, just go inside this function and just log that data. And that's all. And this thing right here, by default is asynchronous. This thing right here is by default asynchronous because it is wrote like that. Everyone knows that Ajax will be basically getting data from network. So it might take a little time. That's why it was by default made asynchronous, just like set timeout. It will never block your code. Are we clear? But this is Ajax. Sending a request to server and getting data in between. And this is working on the background thread. That's why it is basically asynchronous. So you're writing asynchronous JavaScript. That's all. Are we clear with this? This is how you get data from network in JavaScript. Are we clear with this? Everyone, are we clear? And you can see this is a callback function, which is called when the request is successful. Gitika, are you cleared? Is your doubt of Ajax is cleared? You never understood Ajax, right? Are we cleared with Ajax now? Okay, let's see if I'm getting the data. Okay, there's some problem. I think I didn't save this. Okay, I'm so sorry. First, I have to link the jQuery and then my file where I'm using the jQuery. First, you have to link the jQuery and then your file that you're using the jQuery in. Yes, that's why I shown you this, everyone. Because writing Ajax in vanilla JavaScript, normal JavaScript is basically a headache. You have to use that XML HTTP request object. But we have a replacement now. That thing I'm going to explain you at the end of this session today. In JavaScript, writing Ajax was very painful because of that XML HTTP formation. That's why we use this. That's why I use this to explain you Ajax. And in the latter part of the session, I'm going to explain you how to write Ajax in vanilla JavaScript by using the new technique of fetch instead of that XML HTTP request. But just to explain you Ajax, I use this. See it now? You have all your data here. And it is asynchronous. By default, is asynchronous. It will never stop your any code. By default, Ajax calls are asynchronous. No, DB1 is not. This is how much you perform in JavaScript. Gitika, this is how you like JavaScript doesn't see if that particular at the end I'm getting data from database or anything. It doesn't matter for JavaScript. JavaScript just knows this that I have to call a URL and I'm getting data from here. The thing that you're talking about to like create a like API to get data from database and then put it out. It is basically how to create a web service. So that we have to learn how to create a web service. That is different thing. So Ajax is this much only. This is how Ajax is done. That is how to create a web service. You have to learn to get data from database and put it out to like behind the URL to get called and everything. And that is not difficult at all, Gitika. That is also very easy. Don't worry about it. We are going to learn everything inside our Merge Stack course to create APIs and everything. But are we understood with Ajax? Are we cleared with Ajax now? This is how Ajax works with jQuery. We will also perform the Ajax with JavaScript. Yeah, there are few cases. Like if again, well, it depends. If I'm creating a web service, I have like made it free and public without login. It will be available without login. If I have made a web service and there is I want people to log in first, then I will create that. So well, it's totally depends on the creator. It totally depends on me how I'm creating my web service. Are we cleared well for this? So this Ajax function is by default async. This Ajax function is by default async. That is, it is by default working on the background thread. So any task that you know takes a little time, you can just put it on the background thread. So set timeout and then Ajax. Basically, by using Ajax, you're calling some kind of network and getting data. So it might take a time. That's why it is by default asynchronous. Because today we are also going to see how to create our own task asynchronous. Fine, but let's move ahead first. Let's see. So are we cleared with understanding of synchronous and asynchronous so that we can move ahead now? And let's see how to handle asynchronous tasks. Let's see how to handle them. But are we cleared with all this? Should we move ahead now? Can we move ahead now? Okay, let's do it. Fine. So right now we don't have any web service that we can work on. We just have that fake thing that I'm not going to use. So we are going to mimic the behavior of asynchronous by using set timeouts, right? By using set timeouts, we are going to mimic the behavior of like a network, getting data from it and trying to update it. And let's see how we can perform that, right? So we are going to mimic the behavior of calling a web service and working with a web service. We're not working with the actual web service. We're going to mimic the behavior of working with a web service to understand how to like perform asynchronous tasks, how to make tasks asynchronous, and how to handle the new concept of promises. So we're just going to mimic the behavior, right? Are we clear with this? We're not working with an actual web service. So let's say I have some data, right? I have some data. Then let's say I have name. I'll take your names actually. So I'll take Darshan for today. And don't get offended by the age, please. I'm writing anything, any random age. So I'll just write 25. First object is here. Then I'll just take name Velen. Age, I don't know Velen, please don't get offended, anyone. And then I'll also take one more data. A female should be there here. So I'll just take Geetika for now. And age 20. Right? So I have very basic data with name and age. So let's say this data is basically coming from some web service. For now, just take it like this, data is coming from some web service. So let's create a function. Let's create a function to get data. So this is a function to get data, or let's say right get user data, and I'm trying to make it asynchronous, right? Let's make it asynchronous. Let's mimic the behavior, and for that we are going to use set timeout to understand everything. Let's say you want to get a user based on age, right? You want to get a user based on age from some service, from some server. So set timeout, right? Set timeout. We learned it, right? We learned it today. And let's say this task takes around 3 seconds. Now, this, if you're working with this, if you're trying to get data from the actual server, this time may vary. Once you start working with an actual web service, so the time sometimes takes 1 second, sometimes takes 2 seconds, sometimes takes 10 seconds, depending on the speed of your network. But let's just say we have fixed it for now. It will always take 3 seconds. To get data depending on age, it will always take 3 seconds for now. We're just mimicking the behavior of a web service. So let's say taking a data based on age from a web service, it is taking 3 seconds for now. So what I'm going to do is let's return a user from here, right? So what was my array name? Data. Or let's change from data to users, right? Please focus everyone, because these are the topics which are pretty hard to understand at first time. So users dot, we learned this function, right? Filter. Filter. It has a function inside itself, which basically filters every data, right? So user. And now I'm just saying return the user which has age equal to 20. Right? So what this thing is doing, what get user data is doing, it is returning a user with the age of 20. That's all. This is my condition. So I'm getting a data, just think it like this, I'm getting a data from server with a web service. I'm getting a user with the age 20. Are we clear with this? Let's try to print it. Let's try to call this function. Get user data. Okay, let's return whatever we're getting from here. Or let's store it in this. Then let's return it at the end. So I stored it inside this user variable and then returned it at the end. Are we clear? Instead of user, let's type use so that you don't get confused. This is basically the current user that is inside filter, that's all. So filter function will be called for each user present inside the array, and that is going to be stored in U for one time. So whenever u.age is 20, return that particular user, and everyone who has age 20 will be stored in user. Are we clear with this? And at the end, I'm returning it. So get user data should get that thing, right? So let's say we just call let server data, or let's say let response equal to get user data. And at the end, let's just print console.log response. Are we clear with this? Are we clear with this? Are we clear with this? So I have a function which is calling a service, just try to understand, which is calling a service and getting a user with the age of 20, but it takes some time. It takes some time. And at the down here, I've called that function, whatever it is returning, I'll be taking response and I'm printing that response. Now let's see. Let's see what it does. Please see. Please focus. Refresh. See what I'm getting? Undefined. Basically means there is nothing in response. And why is that happening? Because this is an asynchronous task which is taking around 3 seconds to get completed. And this is basically a synchronous task. So this is getting executed first. This console.log is getting executed first. And this is like working for 3 seconds and then it will give data. So this will wait for 3 seconds and then it will give data. But before getting data from here, I just printed this because this was asynchronous. It is working in the background and waiting for 3 seconds. But this was synchronous and it just executed. And that's why I got undefined in response. Are we clear with this? Are we clear with the problem actually? We are learning how to handle asynchronous task. We know now how asynchronous task works. It just goes in the background. We're learning once it is finished in the background and when it gives the response, how to handle that thing. We are learning that thing. So we are learning how to handle the response given by the asynchronous task. So now the problem here is, to solve this problem, what I have to do, I have to make that console log response wait. So I have to say that console log response, please wait until you get the response. Please wait until you get the response. Are we clear with this? Please wait until you get the response. So let's say I have a function. Let's say I create a function, update user. So this is an update user function. And this let's put this code inside that thing, right? And let's try to call update user. Output will be the same. I just made a function, that's all. Output will still be same. It's still undefined. Totally fine. Now I want to make this update user understand that you have to be called update. I want to make this update user understand that you have to be called once this get user function is completed its execution. So to handle the asynchronous task, to handle this background task, I have to understand this update user that you have to wait until and unless you till you get the response from get user data. I want to write a logic that says update user to wait till you get the response from get user data. That's what I want to perform right here. Are we clear with this now? That's what you have to write, because this update user is not waiting. This update user is just executing. Right? It's not waiting for get user data to complete it 3 seconds and then execute it. Are we clear with the confusion? Are we clear with the problem here? This update user is not waiting for get user data to get completed, and that's what we have to do here. We have to make update user understand that you have to wait till get user data is completed, right? Let's do that. So for that thing, what I'll do is I'll pass a callback. I'll pass a function to get user data. Let's try to understand this. I'll pass a function to get user data, and I will say to call the callback once you get the user. I'll say to call that callback function once you get the user. Just try to understand this now. Now I don't have to return it. What I'll do is I'll just create this variable outside so that I can use it in multiple functions, right? So that I can use it in multiple functions. This is just to understand, right? It's just to understand, that's all. And we're going to change this, so don't make it constant. Let's make it let simple. Right? So now what I did, I'm saying that inside get user data, I'll pass a function dynamically. I'll pass a function for you, and you have to call it inside yourself. So that get user data is basically calling will get a function from outside. Wherever get user data is called, I'll pass a function, and it will call that function inside itself. Now what I'll do is, here I'll come. Right? Instead of response, let's just display that user that we created. Now, let's call that get user data. So now get user data, right? And inside this, I'm gonna call update user. Are we clear with this? No, you can write any keyword. It's just you have to pass on. You can write any keyword. You can write CB, you can write AB, you can write anything. It's just a way of writing. You have to write. It will make your code more understandable and readable. You can write anything. But once it is written as callback, you understand that it is a function. You don't have to find if I write C, I have to find if it is getting called to understand that C is a function. It's not a variable. But if I write callback, this is just a formation that I'll understand that callback is basically a function. Are we clear with this? So see, I'm calling get user data, and inside that I'm passing my update user function. That is basically printing the user. No. Understand it like this. I'm passing this just like you pass a data for a variable. I'm passing this update user function, which will go in this callback variable for temporary time, and then it will be called inside this thing. This is just a keyword that will take this function temporarily and it will call inside. Just like you pass, just let's say if you had a variable A, right? You pass a data for it. What happens here if you pass 2? This 2 will go inside A and you can use A anywhere here. This 2 will go inside A and you can use it anywhere here. Just like that, I wrote a keyword named as callback, and the argument that I'm passing is basically a function. I'm passing a function, and this function will go inside this callback, and I'm calling that. So basically, I'm calling call update user there. That's all. I'm basically calling update user there. Yes, I'm passing the function as an argument. That's all. Are we clear with this? Or else you can also do this. Instead of writing update user like this, you can do something like this. You can just create a function here. You have to just, now you understand how for each and everything works, right? Something like this. So this function will be passed, right? This function that I've created directly here will be passed in this callback. That's all. That's how closure functions work, right? That's how callbacks works. That basically means there is somewhere for each is written and it takes something like this and calls inside itself. That's how. That's how we do it. Yes, we can do that, but for that you have to like use that timeout again and again. One for 3 seconds, then one for 5 seconds, one for 10 seconds. You have to increase your time based on the first time that you have taken. Are we clear with this? Now let's see. Now let's see if it is working fine. So now get user data will be called, and I'm passing a function inside it that basically prints user, and it will go inside. So first it will get the user, and then the callback will be called. This is one way of handling it. Now let's see. Waiting for 3 seconds, and at the end, getting the user. Are we clear with this? Are we clear with this? Everyone, are we clear with this? Now, let's say inside up, so this is basically the trick that if you want to display a user or even if you want to update a user, you have to get the user first. That is the thing, you have to get the user first, right? And now the filter function is basically returning an array. That is the problem. See, filter function returns an array, right? We just want to return an object, not an array. Let's do one thing. I can just print user of 0, that's totally fine. If I know that it is coming in array, I can just, and there is only one element, I can just print user of 0. It's totally fine. I'll get the user. See? So if you want to display a user, even if you want to update a user, if you want to delete a user, first you have to get the user. Before getting the user, you cannot perform any operation, right? That's why I wrote a callback to wait. So callback, remember callbacks are always called after the execution of the function, right? So first I executed everything properly and then I called the callback. Is that clear? So first I'll get the user and then the callback is called. Now I can update this user. Now what I can do, I can update this user. See now. So this is getting the user, right? This get user data function is basically calling that thing. Let's do one thing. So let's update the user. Let's update the user. So let's say user of 0 dot name should become week, right? This is basically updating the user, the actual user. This function is updating the user. Let's see if it is working. This function also update the user, right? That's why I written like this. Let's see if it is working. You see it, right? It has been updated and printed. I'm getting the user, updating it, and printing it. Is this fine? Is this fine, everyone? Is this understandable? Is it easy? Are we clear with all this? Okay. Now let's do one more thing. Let's do one more thing to create more confusion. Just to create more like toughness in this code. Let's do one more thing. So let's say after updating the user, after updating the actual user, let's say I want what I can do is okay, first I have to update the name and then I want to update the age. This is what I want to perform. First I want to update the name and then I want to update the age. But I want the name updation to be performed first and then I want the age updation to be performed. So I want the age updation to wait for the name updation. So again, two tasks. I want to execute one by one. So I'll execute the name updation first and then what happened, Muzammil? No, you have to submit all the assignment, Muzammil. You have to submit all the assignment. Right? So again, I have two tasks. I want to execute one by one. So first, I want to like update the name, and then I want to update the age. So let's create a function proper. Let's create proper functions. Now this function will basically update name. Right? This function is basically update name. So this is happening. So again, I'm writing a set timeout, and let's say name update takes a little time. Let's say name update takes a little time. So again, set timeout function. And let's say name update takes 2 seconds. We're just mimicking the behavior. That's why I'm giving by default times. Don't worry about it. Update the name and then return the user. Update the name and return the user. Right? That's what I'm doing. So again, the same thing. Actually, you don't have to return. You have it globally, right? So you don't have to return anything. So now this is the thing that I'm performing, and let's pass this function inside. Update name. See it now? Oh, oh, same, right? It is a callback, right? It should work after that thing. There was some problem here. It has some like a little less time. This is not in suffix. What? No, no, it is this user, right? I'm using this user here. I'm using this. So there's no S. I'm using this user that is returned, right? This is the user that is returned. Actually, the problem is the timing. The problem is the timing. Let's make it 5,000. The problem is this. Now see, it will work properly. Oh, update name, update name. What is the problem, man? Can you people see the problem? Line number 14. What is the problem? I know, right? This thing is working fine, right? This was working. So this thing was working fine, right? Little. Oh, there's no console. Hmm. Did we pass it? If this thing is working fine, if I'm passing a function, why not update names? I feel okay, fine. I think we have to pass it like this. No brackets are required. Yes, the problem was this. Yes, either it should be a string if you're using this thing. It should be a string. Remember, you using set interval. If you're using the bracket, if you're passing a already created function, either you have to use this, or you can just write the function name without writing. Don't have to write the parenthesis. But if you have parameter, you have to write the parenthesis. Then in that case, you have to pass string. So I'll prefer that thing. So when you're passing already, I just forgot it. When you're passing already created function, you have to pass it as a string. That's all. That was the problem. Nothing else was a problem. That was just the problem. Are we clear with this? What is the problem now? Okay, I feel you cannot pass it as string here. You have to pass it like this only. Okay, it is working like this. Totally fine. Try to change the name. No, name is not a problem. Don't worry. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's write it same like that. This is the totally fine way, not a problem. Are we clear with this at least? Are we clear with all this thing? We solved it, Santosh, not a problem. We solved it. Actually, we are passing it in the wrong way. Okay, are we clear with all this thing at least? Let's instead of making complicated, let's discuss the concept actually. So now the thing is, there was one task that is taking 3 seconds, right? And I have to get the user. So I want my next task to be performed after that. So for did what I did, I created a callback. For that thing I created a callback. So I called a function that was getting my user, and inside of that callback, I updated it. So let's say if I have 5 tasks, then how many callbacks I have to create? If I have 5 tasks and that I want to be performed one after the other, if they are dependent on each other, I have to create 5 callbacks. If I have 10 tasks that are dependent on each other, I have to create 10 callbacks. And it makes my code a lot messy, like callback inside callback inside callback inside callback, like function inside function inside function. We basically create a callback hell. That is the problem. So this is the problem that I want to discuss with you actually. That is the problem. Are we clear with this at least? Do you understand the problem? Do people understand the problem? What is the problem? Do people understand that? Everyone, are we understood with that? So if I have 10 tasks, just like this, like getting the user updating, if I have tasks like this, getting the user, then updating the name, and then after waiting for that, updating the age, and after waiting for that, again displaying it on the table. So if I have 4 tasks, I have to write 4 callbacks, right? No problem, we can write that. It will work great. It will work totally great. But the problem is, it will just not look good. Are we clear with this, everyone? It will be just callback inside a callback inside a, because every function is called one after the other, right? So callback inside a callback inside a callback inside a callback. So that is the problem. Are we clear with that? Are we clear with all these things? So that we can move on to the solution. And the solution is just a syntactical sugar. Sure? Okay, let's move ahead then. Let's see, if I don't want to use callbacks, what can I do? If I don't want to use callbacks, if I don't want to use that messy code of callbacks, what can I perform? What can I do here? So we're doing the same thing. We'll do the same thing again. We'll get user data, we'll get the user, we'll update it, and we'll display it. We're going to again do the same three tasks, but instead of using callbacks, we are going to use something called as promises. Promises were introduced in the ES6 version of JavaScript, which were basically to replace the function, the fundamentals of callbacks. Right? Promises are basically created in ES6 to replace callbacks. Now, what promises actually do? They're nothing. They're just normal functions, right? They're just normal functions. It is just a normal object. It is just a normal programming language. What it actually does is it makes sure that there are only two functions performed. Once either a task is completed, or second, or it is not completed. Either task is completed successfully, or else it is not completed. Right? This is what promises do. That's what it checks. Either a task is completed or it is not completed. And actually, this is not the great thing that you get. Handling promises is basically what you get here. Handling the promises is much more easier than handling callbacks. Promises are very simple. It just gives you two functions. Either the function is executed successfully, either it is not. That's what promises give you. This is not the significance of promises. Handling the promises is way more easier than handling callbacks. That is the thing that we're going looking for. So what we'll do is we'll just see how promises are created, how we can convert our code using promises, how we can do that. Like if the task is performed, say true. If the task is performed, it is false. We're just going to do that, and we'll understand how to handle promises. That is where the significance of promises lies. Are we clearing? Are we getting cleared? So promises don't have any significant thing. Promises basically perform your task, and they give you like two valued functions. One function is called when you have successfully completed your task, and one function is called when like it is giving some error, or it is giving some kind of wait time or something like that. That's all. This is what promises do. Handling it is very easier than handling callbacks. So let's convert our code in that. Let's convert our code. Right? So let in this particular function, in this thing, now we don't use callback. Let's remove the callback all funda. We can remove callback completely. Not a problem at all. Remove everything. Now see it now. We're going to create a promise. Now to create a promise, and in future actually you don't have to create promises. Promises are by default returned by things. So you don't have to create promises. Don't worry about it. This is just I'm showing you how to create promises. But this is in Java. In a lot of functionalities, promises will be created by default. You just have to handle them. But for now, we don't have any promises. So we have to learn how to create them, and then we can handle them. In future, you don't even have to create promises for async task. It will be already there. Are we clear with this? Right now, we don't have. That's why we have to create our own promises. So let's do it. Return. Now this function is basically returning promise. So return new promise, right? Normal. Inside it, there's a function which has let's say two parameters, which are again going to be functions. One is resolve, and one is reject. I'm using arrow functions for you so that it is simply understood. That's all. This is how a promise is created. This is how a promise is created. Very simple. A new promise which has two functional parameters. One is resolve, one is reject. Resolve is called when your task is performed successfully. Reject is called when you have some error in your task, right? You can call resolve or reject depending on that thing, right? So let's do one thing. Let's put this task inside here. Now simple. If I get the user, so if user is basically an array, so if user.length is equal to 1, you have to call resolve, and whatever you want to pass through the promise, put it inside your resolve bracket. So pass user of 0. Else, if I didn't get the user, reject the promise. Only two conditions, either resolve or reject, and put, let's say, user was not found. That's so simple. Listen to this. In future, you don't have to create promise. This is I'm just showing how promises being like how promises are created. In future, promises will be automatically created in your asynchronous tasks. Like the fetch and everything, they already have promises created. They just return it. They just return it. This is already written inside them. This thing is already written. This code is already written inside them. Yes, this promise code is already like wrote in the inbuilt fetch function and everything. Right now we don't have, that's why I'm writing. So that's all. This is what you have to perform. A promise, two function argument, resolve and reject. So I'm just writing if I get a user, resolve and pass the user. If I don't get it, just reject it. That's all. And let's see how to handle. Now let's see how handling promises is basically easier than handling callbacks, right? Let's see. See now, we call get user data, that is basically returning your promise, right? See, dot. Now I have two functions, then and catch. These are two promise functions. You can just write then. So if resolve is called, if the promise has been resolved, then it's called, right? So you can write inside then anything you want. You can just go on and write a function, an arrow function, a blank arrow function, console.log. You can just write simply in, if it is arrow function, if you're just writing one line, you don't have to write curly braces. You can just write console.log response. And yes, in this bracket, you have to write whatever response is coming from you. That's all. See it now? If this promise has resolved, whatever data that I'm passing in this resolve function will come in this response, and you can just use it like that. Just like that. So simple. No confusion at all. Like right now, you'll think like last function was also that like only of this length, right? But it's not about the length. If you have 10 functions that you're calling, if you're calling 10 functions, you have to write 10 callbacks. But in here, if you're calling 10 promises, it's just dot then dot then dot then dot then. That's all. Totally simple. I'm going to show you that also. But let's see if this is working. Let's see if this is working. It is just helping you syntactically. That's all. Responses no. Oh, sorry. What? Spelling mistake. Response. So simple. Let's see if it is working. See it now? You can get the user, right? So simple. I have a function which is returning a promise. It has two inbuilt functions. This is how your promises are returned. It has resolve, it has reject. If you got your things, if your task is like perform everything, like the task is successfully completed, you can just pass resolve and the data that you want to pass through it. If it is not, you just pass reject. Remember, I'm again saying in future you don't have to create promises. But if you see this, you can understand it is easier to handle promises than to handling callbacks. It's just whatever function returning promises, call that function dot then, and dot then only works if the promises are resolved. If they are rejected, how to handle that? Totally simple. Again, go here, chain it with a dot catch. You can just write error, whatever the error is. See, now it looks like this. So get user data, dot then and dot catch. If the promise has been resolved, if everything is completed, then will be called. If it is rejected, catch will be called. That's so simple. Do you understand the syntax? Do you understand this? Do you understand the working of it? So promises are basically something which basically perform a task for you, and you can either resolve it or reject it. When it is completed, you resolve it. When it is incomplete due to some reason, you just reject it. And handling is very easy. That is where the main significance is. Handling promises is very easy. In future, you're not going to create promises. You're going to handle them. Are we clear with this? Are we clear with this, everyone? Are we clear with this? Now let's see how it is easy. Now let's call update user. Right? Let's call update user now, and let's say it gets the user. Right? It gets the user and it updates it. It again, it returns a promise for you. So return new, same syntax is same. Promise again, create a function inside it. First is resolve, second is reject. Perform your task again. Perform your task again, right? So just perform the task. What was the task? To update the user, right? Yeah, little it will be a confusing at start. Basically, catch is called whenever the promise is rejected, and I'm going to show you when it is rejected. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's reject the promise once. So let's change age of Gitika to 22. Now the problem is there is no one with the age of 20, so this array will be empty, right? Who was asking that? Yeah, Anjali. Now this array will be empty, right? So it will go in else and reject the promise. Now see what will happen. See it now. See, user was not found. The promise has been rejected and you get a simple error message. That's all. Are we clear with this, Gitika? So pass something in resolve whenever it is successful. Pass something in reject when it is unsuccessful. Are we clear with this? Do you understand it? Let's make it 22 here so that it is already always getting resolved. Okay, perfect. Now let's say we are creating update user thing. Right? Again, same thing. It is performing update user of the user coming from here. Right? Let's update it. So user dot name. Let's say from Gitika it becomes Geet, and just it is just doing printing that user, particular user. That's all. You're not printing actually. You're resolving it. If it is a promise, you have to resolve it. So resolve that particular user. So now you can do how you can do it. See, just go on here, instead of console.logging it, you can just say, if I get the response from the first promise, okay, I'm calling this update user function. Update user and passing whatever I'm getting from here. So response. So simple. So what will happen now? Whatever response I'll get from get user data, I'll pass it inside update user. Right? And update user is again sending me a promise. So again, I have to handle it. Now the best thing about this is instead of writing update user dot response dot, you can just write dot then because it is again giving you a promise. Like you can just go on and write like this. See it like this. You'll understand. Like then call your update user. Pass the parameter, pass the thing that you want. Again, dot then you have to call a function. Now it will have a new response, right? Whatever is coming from that. And let's do one thing. Instead of writing response, I'll write response one so that you don't get confused. Now try to understand this. Get user data is returning a promise. Then if it is successful, catch if it is not. So then perfect. Then get the response. Then I'm calling update user. And whatever response I got from the first get user data, I'm passing it in update user. So it will go inside. Now again it is returning a promise. It is updating the user and giving me the user. That will come inside the update user ka then, right? It will come inside update user wala then. Then you will get it here and then again printing it. Simple, right? Just formation. Are we clear with this? Is it understandable? There's an easier way of doing it. I'm just going to show you in the next minute. But is it understandable? It's just it is going to be like a little complicated at first because it is like a lot of dot thens, but it is actually very simple if you understand it once. Just have to write promises everywhere and just resolve it. Just write dot then wherever you get the response, dot then. Have we understood? Have you understood this? Please, everyone, just tell me. Just tell me. I want answers from everyone watching it. Have you understood this? Yes, you can visit. Yes, but is it understood for now? Is it clear for now? I want answers from more people. Please, everyone, tell me. Ashish, are you there? Everyone, Rahul, give me your answers. Is it understood or you have some confusion? Please ask. Okay. Now let's see the response. Let's see if I'm getting the user, updated user. See it now? Oh, oh, spelling mistake. Should be console. See, I get the updated user with Geet. Yes, we can do. Let's do one thing. Let's get the user and display it first and then update it. Simple. So I'm getting the user first, and in that uska response, we are printing it first and then again updating it and then printing the updated one. Simple. Let's do it. See. So when I got the user, it was Geetika, and after that, it was Geet. Yes, it will it when I wanted to understand it, I needed a little I needed a lot of practice. So for that, for you people too, it will you will take a lot of time to understand everything. You have to practice it to understand it completely. Are we cleared with this? Are we cleared, everyone? And the best part is, if you have 5 promises and all 5 are giving you error, you don't have to write error function for every one of them. Every error can be handled inside a single catch. If you have written callbacks and all the 5 things were like give you the error, if all the 5 functions were giving some error, you have to handle all the 5 errors inside all the callbacks. That's where the promises like are very great. If all the 5 promises are rejecting, you can handle inside a single catch. Can we store the intermediate response in a variable? Yes, not a problem, not a problem. You can store it in somewhere and then inside update user, you can pass that variable, not a problem at all. You just need a little practice to understand everything. Maybe you have to visit again to understand everything. So Madhur, you're asking the right question where we use this whole process. So first of all, as I said, we don't create promises by ourselves. Promises are returned by a lot of functions that we use to perform async tasks. Promises are returned by a lot of functions that we use to perform asynchronous tasks, to perform network requests. So you just have to understand is how to handle promises. This will be already there. Asynchronous task. Inside asynchronous task, these will be these functions returning promises will be already there. You just have to understand how to handle them. And this is much more simpler than handling 10 callbacks. So you can handle 10 dot thens rather than handling 10 callback functions, right? I think we are not going to learn that try catch thing, which we don't have like that much time to understand to learn everything that is there in JavaScript. But maybe in future things. But we have covered a lot of JavaScript here. So we have to leave few OOPS concept and object-oriented JavaScript a little behind for that to learn everything in 8 sessions. So that is the thing, Vijay Kannan. We have like covered a lot of things, but object-oriented JavaScript we didn't have the time to cover. Maybe in the next batch, maybe in next few sessions, let's see if we can cover object-oriented JavaScript, but not a problem. Are we cleared with this? Is everyone cleared? Is everyone clear with promises? Remember, you just have to handle promises. There may be very few rare cases where we're going to create promises. So don't worry about it. You just have to handle promises. And there are a few more touches to promises that I have not covered, but you can see them. I'm going to explain you tomorrow also. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna show you the actual use of promises tomorrow. We are going to use the fetch API, that is calling Ajax request in vanilla JavaScript, which returns promises. So tomorrow we are going to handle everything by using the fetch API that is present in JavaScript. But I hope today you understood the things, right? So you understood async.js, anything that happens in background. Then we understood how to handle them using callbacks when they get back from async to the synchronous way. We understood how to handle them. We understood how to handle them, right? Using callbacks. But callbacks were a little messy. That's why we learned promises to handle them easily. Yes, there will be a little assignments, but I'll give you tomorrow, don't worry. And I'm also gonna, now there is one more catch to promises. There's one more catch to promises. Tomorrow we are going to make this code even shorter. Tomorrow we are going to make this code even shorter by using async and await. So please also join tomorrow's lecture. We're going to make this code even shorter. Then you'll understand how handling promises is way better than handling callbacks. Because tomorrow we're going to make this code even shorter by using the new concept of async and await. So today we learned only one way of handling promises. Tomorrow we are going to learn async and await and we'll make this code even shorter. So please, so tomorrow we have a lot of things to cover. Tomorrow we'll first cover async and await. We'll continue from this. Yes, today's lecture is over actually. So tomorrow we'll just continue from this. We'll convert this thing into async await and make this even more shorter, and then we'll move on to the actual project that I'm gonna develop tomorrow. I'm going to develop a live project tomorrow. So be there, everyone. Today's lecture was a little quite complicated, but you have to revisit again to understand everything. It will be announced tomorrow. Anjali, it will be announced tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Do we have any doubts coming? I hope you enjoyed today's session, right? Did we enjoy it? Please let me know. Did we learn something new? Which is quite complicated, which is very, very new, very, very fresh. Yes, and also the same thing, we are going to start the Mern session. I don't know the date, but we are definitely going to start the Mern session, which will contain everything: creating web services, creating front-end applications. So MongoDB, Express to create web services, Node to handle them, and again React to consume the web services. So everything about it. So the complete full stack development course. Everyone who are asking about the fees and everything, you can just go on the community. Yes, we are also going to learn how to create REST APIs when we learn Mern, right? We're going to create REST API in Node.js using Express library. Yes, there will also be React.js in that course. So it's like Mern, right? MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. These are the 4 technologies that we learn, and by this we will be basically learning how to become a full stack developer by learning that. Every information related to the course, you can just go on the community and see it. You can just go on Let's Upgrade community and see that course. You'll get to know everything about it. Just go on LetsUpgrade.insight and just go on and see that course. You'll get all the details, fees, the content, everything. The prerequisite, you learned it, right? You learned JavaScript. That was the most basic prerequisite. Yes, everyone will get the mails. The prerequisite to learn Mern stack development was JavaScript, and we completed it. And we learned promises because we're going to use it a lot of times in merge stack. It will make basically making our lives easier there. Gitika, you can just visit on the site. Just please visit the site. Everyone asking, you will get all the mails, all the information, and you can just go on the site and see all the information. Please visit the site once, visit the community once, and see everything there. Yes, AK, there are a lot of things. You have React, you have Node, you have Angular, and if you go for Python, you have machine learning. So there are a lot of things that are going on. There are a lot of things that are trend in current times, so you can learn all that things. One and only, the most important prerequisite to learn Moen stack development or mean stack development was JavaScript, and you learned it. Okay, Komal, we'll also solve the search problem tomorrow. We don't have a lot of time today. We'll also solve the search problem tomorrow. Just hold it. We'll also solve. What we'll do, we'll solve everything tomorrow. We'll first solve everything tomorrow, and then we'll move ahead with the topics. So the first thing that we're going to do tomorrow, we'll solve all the problems that we will have in the assignments. Mean stack, same. It's Angular based. So the three things are same. You have MongoDB, you have Express, you have Node, but instead of React, you have Angular as the front end technology. So if you use Angular, it is basically mean stack. If you use React, it is basically Moen stack. Okay. Hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you for joining in. Thank you all. Please join tomorrow's session. We're going to resolve it, make it a little smaller, a little easier, and again, solving all your doubts tomorrow, solving all your assignments out tomorrow, and then we'll move ahead. So the first thing will be solving all your doubts, assignment doubts tomorrow. And today's session was quite complicated. You can just revisit it and understand it again. And don't worry, this is tough for everyone. At first, this is tough for everyone. If you do it twice or thrice, you'll easily understand it. That's not a problem at all. Thank you so much. Have a nice day, all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.